Hey there, we are here with our first video interview. Steve is 100% responsible for us starting a video interview podcast, whatever we're gonna call it. Everything is fresh. Literally, the table was bought from IKEA last night and we're sitting on new chairs. And hopefully next time you see this, the guys will have assembled a bookshelf behind us that makes everything look nicer. So I have Steve here with us at the Good Bureau office, and really just want to have a conversation tonight and interview you and pull what's in your head. I think Steve is one of the most brilliant people I've ever met. He's a collector of articles, information, resources, and has been a huge source of inspiration, encouragement for me through LinkedIn. And so I want to jump in. Steve, you're from Indianapolis. Tell us why you're here in Romania right now.
Well, first of all, I want to say that I challenged Ryan. I met Ryan last year for 1 hour in Campina, and I fell in love with this guy. He spoke a language that I hadn't heard too often, combining business and mission in a very unique way. And I said, Ryan, you have talked to me for 1 hour, and you have at least 10 5-minute videos in this chat we've had. I want you to go back, start making videos of what you're talking about, your ideas. Next thing I know, I'm coming to Romania. I'm going to visit him for one day, and he says, Steve, you're going to be my first podcast interview. And I'm like, I wasn't wanting to do this myself. I want you to do it, but I'm glad to be here. And yeah, so this is unique. And I watched him put these tables together. I said, oh, IKEA. They're throwing this together. It's great, and hopefully this will be the first of many podcasts where we can really tell the world what he's doing, what we're doing, what we're excited about in Romania, and yeah, this is an exciting time. I'm glad to be here.
I really appreciate it. I mean, you was a real source of inspiration for me. I'm not a guy that likes to produce content, but felt like we found an outlet here in which, sure, we can share a little bit about what we're doing, but we get to meet so many amazing people that come through the country, come for visits, come on vacation, or are here in Romania doing amazing things. And you guys are part of that. And so share a little bit about what's happening up in Campina with Open Hand.
Yeah, I first came to Romania in 1997. So I've been coming for over 20 years, and every year there's change. The first year I came, I wasn't sure I wanted to come back. It was a little intimidating. You get off the plane and you're met with soldiers and just kind of unfriendly environment, challenging environment, from everything from the service to where you're going to stay. Your accommodations could be challenging. But I have to say, after 22 years, now it's a pleasure to come back to Romania. I come at least once a year, so it's been fun to watch a country change in one generation, from kind of an unwelcoming country to a very welcoming country that's just a blessing to me every time I come. I leave this country energized. I eat the food, I get stronger. I tell Marshall and our partners in Campina that I take their energy back to America, and they may be glad to see me go at times. And they have a little rest, but every time I come, I see God's blessing on this country. I see just what He's doing here, and it's an exciting time. And basically, we first came to Romania after Marshall McKenna, a young friend of ours, came over on a short-term mission trip from our church, Tabernacle Presbyterian Church. And he was here for 1 week in 1996, I think it was, and he said, I'm going to stay. I want to go back to Romania full-time. He's an engineer, and our church, of course, said, you can't go as a missionary, you're an engineer. And so we had just formed a nonprofit called Open Hand. And we said, hey Marshall, guess what? We can support you. We can run funding through you to support you to go to Romania. So we commissioned him in the summer of 1997 for full time to come. And I think he worked in the streets of Bucharest. And he did that for 3 years. And then in 2000, he said, I want to do my own thing. I want to get some of these older kids and adults off the street. We need to get out of Bucharest, so he chose Campina, which was about an hour north. We bought some land up there, and since that time we've been coming to Bucharest, working with in prisons and working on the streets, inviting people to come out of that lifestyle, get away, get an hour away, and come and live in our campus and go through rehab, etc. So 22 years later, we've seen the fruit. We've just seen amazing growth, and But first of all, it just started with a young man who had a heart, and his heart was won over by the kids at the train station and in the underground, and he was transformed. And then he came back and shared his vision, and now that's spread all over.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's the same organization that he was working with the streets, the kids in the streets in the late 90s, that my dad and I came over on a short-term mission trip around the same time in 1997. And I was only 12 at the time. We stayed at a hotel overlooking the park right across from the train station. And at that time, thousands of kids were living on the streets and the sewers that had run away from orphanages and state care. And that train station, those kids, this country, sounds like it changed Marshall's life for the good, and same for my life. And so you've been coming back every year pretty much for about 22 years now. What are some things that you're seeing happening? You get the ability to come and go and kind of check in almost on an annual basis. So with that removal, things change every year. What are some things that you've been seeing change that are positive?
That's part of the cool part, is every time I come, I kind of don't know what to expect, but I know there's going to be growth.
Yeah.
And so just as I said, that coming for that 22 years, you see in one generation, this is what I think is surprising, and you don't get the perspective of time like this very often.
Yeah.
But just coming every year, you get a snapshot, and the people living here don't see a lot of change, and I see it, and I'm able to talk about it. And to do that continually for 2 decades, you begin to see an entire nation develop and kind of blossom. And so it's one of those situations where when I was getting on the plane in Amsterdam to come, I knew exactly when I saw the crowd, oh, these are Romanians. Now you get on the plane and you guys have joined the Western the EU, and it's just like getting on a plane to France or England or anywhere. So the development has been exciting to see. The growth has been exciting to see. The sophistication, the education, everything is just, you guys have done in one generation what it took many countries to do in a much longer period of time. So the growth has been tremendous in a short period of time. I know that causes some issues, but I think it's more been a blessing, because it's just, you've leapfrogged into the 21st century in a unique way. And now the young people in Romania, you've got this vibrant, educated group of people that are really pushing for change, a lot of positive energy. Unfortunately, a lot of people have left Romania for other opportunities, but I think we're going to see now in the next generation, the next 5 and 10 years, you're going to see a lot of people coming back. And that's what excites me, and what excited me about when I heard what you were doing, raising up a generation of entrepreneurs, because if you can create opportunities, economic opportunities for these young people, they're not going to have to leave.
Yeah.
And they've seen everything that the West has to offer, and they want that lifestyle, but they also want it in a way that's Romanian, uniquely Romanian, and that's cool. As I always tell everybody, I come to Romania, I eat your food, I'm with your people, and I leave energized and stronger than I came, and I go back and give the blessing to America. And so a lot of good things are happening here, and the word is getting out. So every time I go home, a video like this, I'll show this to our friends, and Ryan's going to do more of this on a regular basis. I keep telling him, get the word out, let people know what's happening in Romania, not just in Bucharest, but all over the country. Yeah. And you're part of that revolution. You're part of that first generation, that wave of pioneers, young people that are seeing the change and have grown up in freedom, and growing up with the idea that capitalism is a system that can work when it's done well. Yeah. So the opportunities here are just tremendous, and I'm hoping we can bring more people all the time. Every time I come, I try to bring somebody. I didn't on this trip, but I generally bring somebody from my city. So I brought my kids, I brought friends, I brought business people. And now my challenge when I go back, I want to bring a few entrepreneurs that have capital, that have expertise, that want to plow back into you guys. So the first place I'm going to stop is with you guys. We're going to be in Deschisa, Open Hand in Campina. So I hope to bring back resources that are appropriate. Yeah. I don't think they were appropriate, the kind of resources we were talking about 20 years ago, but there's so much opportunity now. There's a lot of groundwork laid. What I'm seeing out of your organization and our own organization is just a foundation, and now an opportunity to really begin to reap some of those seeds that we've sown. They're growing, they need to be watered, they need to be fertilized, and so there's going to be a fruitful harvest, I'm pretty sure.
Awesome. One of the things that I've always appreciated about the organization you're working with, Open Hand, is you guys have always been there's always been some entrepreneurship in your DNA. You guys, got a home and started inviting girls and women that were on the streets in Bucharest to come outside, get into an environment where you could really kind of clean up your life. A lot of them had substance abuse addictions, and getting them in a safe environment for them to grow and rehab. But you guys always had this injection of entrepreneurship. Why and where did that come from?
Yeah, well, as you know, you have to be sustainable, and as a nonprofit, we're always underfunded. We're always running in a red budget, and yet we're growing. And the way we've done that oftentimes is a hybrid structure where we combine business with our mission for the outreach. So we got involved in building, we got involved in cutting wood, we got involved in making candles, we got involved in all kinds of projects where we could actually create some revenue streams. Now this could cause problems at times because we were always bumping up against rules and regulations of, are you a business? Are you a nonprofit? Yes, we're doing both. And fortunately we've been able to work that enough that we've been able to keep the revenue streams coming in. We've partnered with all kinds of different people. We've renovated buildings, we've gotten involved in the construction industry, we've gotten involved in farming. So we've gotten involved in a lot of types of opportunities. Some have been less successful than others. Others have turned into pure business. Others have been a hybrid. And part of the reason I'm excited about you guys is because this whole idea of social entrepreneurs and businesses doing good all over the West, and now in this country here, I'm hearing the same thing, that the millennials especially, they don't want to just work for a company that's making money.
Yeah.
They want to work in a job and a career that has meaning and purpose.
That's right.
Beyond just a job. So what we're all about, and when we do enter the economic system, is that we want to do good. We want to make some money to pay our bills. We're not here to make money, we're here to be sustainable. Yeah. And when we do make a profit, we can plow back in and grow, which all nonprofits need that too. So the reason we got involved in business was we just weren't raising enough funds. So we're always looking for donations. At the same time, we're creating hybrid structures to bring revenue in, and that's been exciting too, because it then creates opportunities, economic opportunities for our staff. So we can employ some of the people that are in our program. It's usually a 2-year program, and when they come off the street, sometimes they have to get off their addiction. They need to get an education. We get their kids enrolled in school. So we get their life basically starting back on track. Yeah. They're living in a community. They have chores, they have responsibilities. We have gardens, we have greenhouses, so we grow our own food. So pretty soon they get in a rhythm of, oh, this is what a normal life feels and looks like. Yeah. You're stable enough that you know where your next meal is coming from. Yeah. You're starting to get some responsibilities, and as they get more responsibility, they can move out of the one housing unit into more independent living, which we just built 4 new homes for independent living. Cool. And so the stages, they go from that to independent living, and then from that they hopefully return to society as more productive. The fun part is coming back after 22 years, we'll go downtown Bucharest and all of a sudden somebody will yell, Marshall, Marshall, Marshall. And it'll be a grown-up, and Marshall will say, well, this kid, I saw this kid when he was 7 years old. Wow. And we have clients and students and former people that we worked with that come back, and they're married, they have a career. So some of the most rewarding things are to see, we plant seeds, we don't know who's going to actually benefit and actually come off the street and get a new life. Yeah. But those that do are revolutionized, and it makes it worthwhile. We never know. We may have 10 people in the program. Most of the time, they will stay at least 1 year. And we have an open hand. Our policy has always been, we believe God holds us with an open hand, and we hold them with an open hand. We do say if you're going to come off, you're going to have to get clean, but we're going to hold you with an open hand. You don't have to, you don't even have to cooperate. You have to participate. And we're going to see a behavioral change possibly over a period of time, but we don't expect them to be perfect. And as soon as we start closing the hand on them, we have to break it open and say, no, you're free to go if you need to go. That's good. And we have no gate. If you want to leave, you can leave. It's one of those situations where we're trying to give them back responsibility and trust. And I think when they see some of the growth in their own lives, especially with their children, there is an extra incentive to cut that pole for the street, which can be very convenient. It's a very short-term convenience that turns into a long-term addiction. But so we do seek success. We do see those people who do leave and walk away, and it's never exciting to see that happen. But we're not forcing anybody to do anything. But we are saying, here's a program. If you participate in this, we're going to walk alongside you. You have to do all the work. Yeah. We're here as a resource. We're going to go to bat for you. We're going to go to court for you. We're going to go to the hospital for you. We're going to take care of you as much as we can. but it's up to you to do what you need to do to break this cycle. So there's a lot of teaching, especially women. We focused more on women the last decade or so because we had trouble when we mixed the men and women together, as you can imagine. So we've had different seasons, and it started out more with children. It moved more to men and women, and then just because of the dynamics, we decided we really need to focus on the women with children.
Yeah.
So that's what we've been doing primarily the last 10 years. And by the time they leave our 2-year training, they're pretty equipped to go out and get a job, and they probably already had some jobs with us and made some money. So learning how to be stewards of that. So we have a lot of fun with that.
That's awesome. There's such a need for rehab and such programs in Romania. Romania has massive issues with substance abuse. It's something that is not talked about all that much, but thankfully there's a national agency against drugs that is raising awareness and trying to prevent this. But we need a strong nonprofit NGO sector alongside government response. And so I'm thankful for organizations like you guys, because we need safe places for people to go, and addiction is just so ugly and devastating to families.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the thing that strikes me the most important piece of what we do is we sit around and we have dinner together. And all of our staff and our kids on staff are mingling with the clients and their kids. And every time I go for lunch or dinner, I'm just amazed that it's like we're breaking bread together, we're opening our lives together so that these people become part of our families. And when we celebrate Christmas or a holiday, they're in the houses of the staff as well as the center where we're all meeting for lunches and things. So I've just noticed that when we eat together and spend an hour or two together daily, with the kids running around and all the activity of a kitchen and around the table, that's kind of where I think more transformation happens than anywhere else. And it's a routine they get into, along with the programs and things. But what I've really noticed the last few years is that special time. And I come once a year, but most of the people that I see, there's new ones, and then there's some ones that I still recognize, obviously. And some of those older ones have stayed, and they're part of our staff now. Cool. And so that's kind of cool. So it's a situation where it's really the hospitality and the community. It's not a program, it's a family. And they become family, and that is what I think really makes a big difference in what I've noticed anyway. And we always have wonderful food. The Romanian food is some of my favorites. So every meal, I've been here, this is my second week, and I told Ryan today I haven't had a bad meal, and I'm feeling great. And around the table in Romania, it's very important. I see that you guys love food and you love family. And that's what we get to participate in. And we have an international team. So we've got South Africans, we have Dutch, we have Norwegians, we have Americans. I never know who's going to come, but people hear about what we're doing and they want to volunteer. Yeah. So we have a couple new South African young ladies who are teaching in our school. We also have a school that has 23 kids in it, both our students' kids and our own kids and neighborhood kids. And if you might not know this, but South Africa won this Sunday in the semifinals against Wales in rugby. And so Marshall's originally from South Africa. Nice. And so the two teachers are originally from South Africa, and so this coming Sunday they're playing in the championship against England. Oh, okay. So it's a bring and braai. And a bring and braai means a braai is a barbecue grill where you grill out and you bring your own meat. Nice. So Marshall said next Sunday is a bring and braai. So for all the Romanians, bring and braai is where you bring your meat to the barbecue and you have a party around a sporting event. So I know here you guys have good soccer teams, football teams as you call them, and where they come from they have the great rugby team. So I'm sorry I'm not here. If I was here next weekend we'd be having the bring and braai. And that's when we also invite the students and clients. So we have, it's an international mesh of people coming together around a common good and sharing life together, from the babies all the way up to the grandparents and people my age. And so it's a multi-generational, multicultural environment of love and trust. Yeah. Again, with the open hand, they don't have to do, we expect things that they're going to get better, but we're not forcing them. So I think they feel a lot of freedom, and maybe that freedom without a lot of necessary restraint and restriction, because we begin to trust them. Yeah. And it's a two-way street. They have to trust us. But after 20 years, I think the theme is that we've really seen kind of a new season. We've really plowed in 20 years of energy into this, and now we're really seeing some traction in new ways and some new excitement, and I'm looking forward to seeing the next decade and what that's going to entail.
Very cool. Yeah, there's a real peace there. I've visited the property campus a few times, and when you walk in, there's just a real sense of peace. And I think that's like you said, that's 20 years in. It's hard work, hard labor, but I know it comes from a place of love and authentic love. You mentioned the value of the families. It feels like a family, and I think that's the essence of what drives a lot of people to addiction, is that lack of family feeling sometimes. And there was some TED Talk, I think, that talked about addiction. Behind it is just a lack of relationships oftentimes. And so I think it's so important, the work you guys do, and really vital. Now, you're living in Indianapolis, Indiana, where I lived for about 6 years before moving to Romania. And there you work with a lot of international business people, expats. Mm-hmm. What type of work are you doing there?
Yeah, basically, I work with a company called LTC Language Solutions, and I'm supposed to be an ESL teacher, English language teacher, but my clients happen to be middle-aged executives at pharmaceutical companies like Eli Lilly and Roche, and an agricultural company like Corteva, formerly Dow Agro. And so when they have their relocation package, they're allocated so many hours for language training, cultural training, assimilation into the country and the city they come into. So they fly into Indianapolis, they land as a family of 4 or 6 and don't know much. They each get language hours, and as I said, I typically, being 64 years old, I get the older guys and women, and I sit down with them like this once a week or twice a week for an hour or two. And the first thing I realize is your English is actually pretty good. You're actually fluent, so I'm not going to be able to help you much with your English. What I will help you with is your communication and your ability to understand the context you're placed in. And then it becomes more of a sharing about the different struggles they're going through, and a lot of it is leadership, management. Each of these individuals is obviously the top of their game, otherwise they wouldn't have the 3-year assignment in Indianapolis, overseas assignment. They typically get that after 10 or 15 years of experience. Wow. And that way they get to go to the headquarters, which is in that headquarters, like Eli Lilly, they get to meet and network. And during that time, I'm privileged to walk alongside them for a year or two. I just got back. I was telling Ryan I was here for 10 days, and then I was in Istanbul for 3 days this weekend. I just got back here in Romania, and I was meeting a former Turkish client there. I got to know he and his family for a 2-year period of time, and I said, man, I'm a 45-minute flight away from Istanbul, and they invited me to come any time. So this is the second time I visited a family that I got to work with, and awesome. She's an executive at Lilly, and he's a businessman, and I'm looking for business opportunities in Turkey too. They have very similar needs, a developing country, young age people, a lot of talent. Yep. Trying to connect the talent with the opportunity. Yep. So that's the joy in my job, is that I've got people from all over the world. I've got Chinese, I've got Asians, Japanese, Brazilians, Europeans, Italians, French. So it's a privilege to sit by people that are, really have their act together. But what you realize is we all have issues. Yeah. And once you get to know somebody and you're sitting in a scenario like this, you realize that the issues they face are a little different than the issues that our people here are facing in Romania, but they're very similar too. They're all looking for that trust. They're all looking to be recognized. They're all looking to utilize their talent. And there's conflict. There's obviously problems and work with personnel issues and stuff. So it oftentimes turns into teachings on cultural intelligence and emotional intelligence, getting into flow and what's it look like to be successful in your current job, negotiating with your boss, negotiating with your associates. And it becomes just a coaching situation, again, where I say, I'm walking alongside you for a period of time. You have to do all the work. But we can talk about your challenges, and guess what? Oh, your challenges I've done this now for 5 years, your challenges are the same challenges that this person from this country has. So it's a universal challenge of how do we communicate, how do we link, how do we network, how do we survive and thrive in a culture that's different than our own. And so that's been a real joy, and to come to Romania all these years, I've learned a lot just because we've had to work with so many different cultures. And once you've done that, you kind of loosen your mindset and you're a little more open. You lose some of your assumptions, you're open-minded, and you realize that you have a different way of thinking about reality, and I want to hear about that. And so what ends up happening is I change as much as my client does. And I see the same thing when we're with our kids off the street and women off the street. As they grow, we're growing too, and they're challenging us and asking why we do certain things, and there's a pushback and a growth process. So it's always a two-way communication. It's always a two-way street where we're not just giving something, we're getting back. And that's probably the reason we're here 20 years, I think, and we're going to be here another 20 years, is because we keep getting back, and we keep having more people involved that want to participate, and so there's a cycle there. And so it's fun. I get to do this kind of thing back home with people that seem to be real successful but have problems, and helping them be more successful, and then bringing them alongside saying, Steve, what are you doing in Romania? Guess what? I'm going to show you a video. And you could visit and you could help.
Awesome. You
could visit, you could donate. So there's a broader message, and their companies are doing the same thing. So Eli Lilly has a philanthropic division. Roche, everybody's trying to do social good in their own community and across the world. So the more we can tell people some of the needs that we see, the more people will raise their hand and say, hey, I think I could help you there. And that's what we see. Now we have the Dutch deeply involved, we have the Norwegians deeply involved, and they continue to bless us. And once somebody comes and sends a team to Romania, they fall in love with Romania.
That's right.
And they go back and tell other people about what they experienced here. And then sometimes we have too many teams that want to come all at once. That's a good problem, I think, where you have that energy and people. And so when we were building the 4 homes, for instance, I was here 5 years ago. We raised, my church, I think we raised, 10,000 euros. It wasn't enough, but it was enough to get the foundation. And we had the drawings and everything. And we had 5 different cultures trying to lay out the foundation by strings. And, they were measuring. And we had a Dutch, and we had an American, we had a Romanian, we had a Norwegian. Wow. And they're arguing for hours on how you lay out the foundation. And at the end of the day, everybody went home. And the Dutch guy who lived right next door, he came out and he laid it out the way he wanted it. And the next day, our team from America, we hand dug the foundation, and that was part of our outreach. Was we wanted to come, donate some money, and then donate our energy. And so what could we do? Oh, you guys can hand dig the foundation. So we spent 4 days hand digging. Wow. I get home, Marshall sends me a video of the concrete truck pouring the concrete, and then I come back the next year, and the frame is starting to go up. And I come back the next year, and Marshall's like, we're out of money. We start fundraising. I come back the next year, the roof's on. This is the 5th year I come back, it's finished. Why is it finished? Because the Norwegians came 3 times with different teams, or 4, forgive me Norwegians if I don't have this right, and the Dutch, they send teams down and they say, what can we do? Well, you can help do, if you have a team of 10 men or women, we have all kinds of things you can do. And so the last time the women came from Holland, they actually brought money, they brought their energy, they went to IKEA and furnished the 4 houses with IKEA through their donation. So once we see it, Marshall saw this, he said, Steve, I can see we need more property, we need more housing. Let's put it on the campus. We ran, of course, into all the problems you run into in Romania when you try to do something. There's a lot of regulations, this can't be done. And I saw Marshall many years ago, maybe 15 years ago, he went to the bank in Romania. He said, I need my 10,000 euros out in the next hour. And they said, this is not possible. And Marshall said, this is the new Romania. This is possible. I'm coming back in 1 hour. I want my 10,000 euros. So we go out, and he goes to the store, and we get some flowers. And we come back, and we come to the front of and he's got his flowers, and they've got his 10,000 euros. And I've just watched the system. They trust us now, and we've learned to trust them. And the bureaucracy is kind of melting. It's still strong, but it's melting in the sense where we can accomplish things now, where in the past, the first thing would have been, this is not possible. The new Romania, anything is possible. That's the spirit that you're seeing. So it's so exciting now. I'm seeing the Romanians say this too. Anything is possible. And you go from there, and next thing you know, you have a house built. It took 5 years, but that's okay.
Talk more about that new Romania. What do you see for the future in Romania? I mean, you post a lot of articles on LinkedIn, and you've been sharing some with some good news for this country.
I one of the things that I was just, this is funny because I'm always telling people, and now we're talking about Romania, I see more positive articles that you guys aren't aware of. I'm reading the World Economic Forum stuff every week, and I see all the country comparisons. And just one good news that I just saw this week was Airbnb. Romania's number 5, the fastest growing and the 5th most popular destination site for Airbnb travelers.
Huh.
Because of your culture, there's a lot to see here. They know the people are friendly, it's safe, the food is good. So you have a reputation out there that I don't know that you recognize.
Yeah.
But just realize you're number 5 in the world now.
Yeah. Fastest growing,
and you're the
like
300% growing. And
that's awesome.
So that was encouraged. So I'm seeing those kind of things, and I'm seeing economic numbers. And one of the things I posted on was I looked at the world's most innovative economies recently was posted for 2019, and you guys jumped 6 spots to 29th place in the world this year for most innovative economies. So Romania is 29th in the world.
That's incredible.
In innovative economy. So what I'm seeing is a lot of energy, a lot of talented people that are well educated.
Yeah.
The issue is, can you have opportunities for these people to lean into that innovation? Because I see a lot of them leaving. Everywhere I go in Europe, I see Romanians. Why are you here? Well, I can get a better job.
Yeah.
But guess what? They're missing Romania, they're missing the culture, they're missing the food, they're missing the family. They end up coming back.
Yeah.
They're a little disillusioned because they made better money there, but they missed the culture.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, hey, you're not going to have to leave in the future.
That's right.
And through works like yours and ours and others, we can train up these entrepreneurs to actually lean into these situations.
That's right. We're really excited about the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Romania because it just continues to develop. There's so many actors, so many great things happening. I was talking to a quite successful entrepreneur about last year here, and he said, I was talking to him and I said, I think, man, entrepreneurship is really starting to thrive in Romania. And he said, it's not starting to thrive. Romania has always been an entrepreneurial country. Prior to communism, there was great innovations and inventions that came out of this country. He said, so Romania has always been entrepreneurial. It's just reviving now post-communism. And that was a great correction for me because I hadn't thought of it before. And I went, whoa, the roots of innovation and entrepreneurship are here. And so I think this is we're starting to let that flourish and let that happen. Society is allowing that to happen. And so I'm encouraged by that, and I hope others are too.
Yeah, and in the economics I've been reading, the 2 giant things you have are agriculture and IT professionalism. It used to be the breadbasket of Europe, and I think that's returning. The soil here is really fertile. And what I was telling a story, we have some farmland, and the farmer is looking for 10 good people. He usually has 6 or 7, and he loses a few, and he's saying how hard it is to find, the people that he needs. And I think, well, that must be multiplied quite all over Romania to find the quality people. And so one of the things that I'm seeing that might help is to be able to link all those people looking for jobs with all those people who have jobs. Yeah. And so I'm wondering how we can go about creating a platform where you can almost build a scaffolding for people to say, I have job opportunities. And I'm hearing there's a job shortage. There are opportunities here, but so many people have left and they can't find people to fill those jobs. So that I see the frustration, but that frustration is the potential that some entrepreneurs will find a way. Yeah. Where there's a problem, there's going to be a solution. That's right. I hope we're a part of that solution. And when I go back to Indianapolis, one of the things I'm going to talk. My brother-in-law Tom Morales owns Morales Group Staffing. They staff 5,000 people around the United States every day. 5,000 people. Wow. 400 companies looking for temporary labor, but that temporary labor oftentimes turns into full-time labor. They're contractual labor. So he's got a model that's been working for 16 years in the United States, and I'm saying to him, can't we take your scaffolding, your structure, and tweak it so that we're culturally sensitive to what Romania will work in Romania, and set up a situation where we can start lining up those people with the opportunities. And it's just a simple situation. It's not simple. It's complex to find those networks, but I think we can do that. And I think you guys are wired enough. Your internet here is faster than. It's so funny. A couple things. Your internet is so much faster. I'm laughing. I'm in a village, a rural village, with 65,000 people, and my internet is flying. Yeah. And I communicate at home. I can, with WhatsApp and stuff like that. The other thing, I go to McDonald's here. You guys have the best McDonald's in the world. They're clean. They have playgrounds. They're organized. It's just like, it's a luxury to go to McDonald's here. I don't even want to go to McDonald's when I go home. They're so, I don't want to downplay U.S., but I'm telling you, you guys are doing a lot of things right.
good.
And there's a lot more you can do right. And I hope we can participate in helping that. But it's here. The energy's here. The potential's here. It just has to be tapped. It has to be harnessed. It has to be released. It has to be trained.
Yep.
And so my goal is to come back. I come once a year. I'd like to come 3 or 4 times a year.
Awesome.
And I'd like to be able to be a part of that training. I'd like to be able to be saying, here's what we're doing. Here's how we're doing it there. How are you doing it here?
Yep.
Learning from you, taking it back to America. We have a lot to learn from you guys. We're not here just to preach to you guys and show you how everything's done.
That's right.
We're here to say, hey, we have tools, we have things that are working. How's it working here?
Yeah.
And I oftentimes go home and think, oh my gosh, I have some ideas that I saw in Romania. And you're right, they're entrepreneurs. They had to hustle. We call it hustling with a halo.
Hustling.
And the one thing I will say, you're back in Romania when you get in the line. I'm in the airport and everybody's pushing and shoving. I'm like, oh, I'm back in Romania. It's not mean-spirited or anything. It's just Romanian.
Yeah.
And I was in Turkey and I was laughing because I was at a midnight concert with 200 people in a small venue. And I'm like, this is going to be pretty rowdy. And everybody's jumping up and down. It's kind of hard rock music. And everybody was so polite. And you could walk through the crowd and nobody was... I'm like, oh, this is not a Romanian crowd. And we were just, and then I get back here and I get in the airport. I think, oh, I'm back in Romania. But I had to laugh because
we like our lines cozy.
Yeah.
We like, right up, nestled in. As a big guy.
So there's pieces of your culture that you don't need to lose. You might need to sharpen it a little bit or something. But watching that 22-year process go from, as I said, very closed country and everything closed to being very open. And as I said, when I get on the plane, I don't know where I'm going. I'm like, am I going to the right place? Because you guys, you're in London, you're in Paris, you're in Bucharest, you're everywhere, and you come back with the things that you see other people have, and you go and other people see what you have, and there's a great mixing there of the culture. So I think that's been a really blessing too, is to have that openness. The EU, I'm actually for the EU. I like the EU. I'm not very happy. This is a confession. I'm not proud of my country right now, and I did not want to be recognized as an American.
Yeah.
I'm kind of ashamed of some of the things we're doing, but but I can say that because I'm an American. I can criticize it because I want to go back hopeful and be part of the change.
Yeah. So
I can criticize it, but I'm not proud of it. And there I am going into Turkey, and I'm like, oh shoot, here comes an American. But guess what? I was welcomed in the first place we sat down. They said, it's an American. They brought out an American flag and a Turkish flag with my host. And we took a picture and posted it on LinkedIn and said, okay, the citizens will take care of this peace process if the governments aren't doing this,
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm hoping that we can, as individuals, we can influence. I hope the Romanians will vote. I hope the Romanians will get actively involved because you guys have so much potential here that you can change the rules that aren't working.
Yeah.
You can give incentives for people to come back. Can you imagine that? Giving an incentive for the people to come back. And then maybe it's a tax issue or something. Mm-hmm. And so you would be really smart to say, how can we get these people back? And we could be really smart by figuring out how not to be such an ugly American. So I apologize for that piece, but I can criticize it and I will go back and try to change too.
Now you were mentioning earlier, there's this book that you started reading last year, you read on the way over here. And you're a big reader, you're a big consumer of information. And you said you were in your garage and found this book again. And just was rereading much of it. Deviate, the science of seeing differently. Yeah. Tell us the concept there. Give us the gist of that. Because if you read it both times, and your trip last year to Romania and here again.
When I read a book, I mark it up and I absorb it. But so I'm one of those guys that I like to go to a bookstore and find books that are unusual. This is a book on the neuroscience of perception. So I've been doing a lot of reading, and because I'm working with expat executives in the pharmaceutical industry, I'm dealing with very bright people, doctors, and all kinds of different job titles, HR people. So I have to be if I'm dealing with a doctor that's dealing with diabetes at Lilly, I want to know about diabetes, and I want to know about that studies. I'm working with some neuroscientists, I want to know what's happening in neuroscience. I also work with the spouse that's not working. So I work with the spouse that's working at their office or at a coffee shop, and then I go oftentimes and meet the spouse who's not working at home. Okay. And I also help them they had to lay their career aside or stop their job to come with their spouse for this assignment. So I oftentimes work with the person who's not working, helping them find a job. And some of those situations, I'm reading the material that would go together with the field that they're studying and they want to get involved with. So I have to be informed. So I'm always reading. And when I was looking at this idea of seeing differently, this idea of perception, we all come, if 10 of us were sitting here talking about an issue, we all bring an assumption to that table. And I don't know what your assumption is. I'm assuming you're thinking like I am. Well, guess what? None of us are thinking. And then you throw the cultures in. And so when we're trying to put that building together and lay out the foundation, we had 5 countries with 5 assumptions. And we tried to come together and we had to use English, which was the common language that everybody could speak. So some people are using their second or third language. So their brain is thinking a different way. And at the end of the day, we did not find a common meaning. And basically what we're finding in neuroscience is that there is no right or there is no reality out there until we co-create it. It's just an idea that we're going to do a building. We come together and we talk about that, and then we know the different pieces that go into it. But we have to go co-create that from the ground up. And as soon as we start, we run into issues because we all have different assumptions. Yeah. And basically, if we're healthy, we can lay aside our assumption, turn it down, come into, again, with an open heart, open mind, open hand, and be able to say, what are you thinking? Why? Here's what I'm thinking. And so you begin to have where communication takes place. It's not just words passing back and forth. And we think, oh, if I just said it more clearly, oh, if I said it in your language. No, it's not about that. It's about finding meaning in that and context. So we wrestle a lot with just finding meaning. So that this was, to me, he was basically saying that to get out of our normal self, we have to deviate from our tendencies and turn those off. And to deviate is to change course. So it's a matter of changing course, changing our mind. And it's very hard to change our mind because we're hardwired to be selfish, look out for self. The stranger is somebody that we can't trust, and we're going to cheat as much as we can. That's built into the DNA from the evolutionary process. Look out for number 1 and family. The stranger is not to be trusted, cheat when you can. Unfortunately, that's kind of what I see our government doing right now. I kind of see that the leadership at the top, rather than dumbing down those assumptions and opening up the mind and saying, how do you see this? How do we see this? And really negotiating. The best negotiators are able to get everybody's assumption on the table. And then I know, the Dutch, they're going to need an extra 4 or 5 hours to process this. The Americans, we want to do it in 5 or 10 minutes, and we want to tell you how to do it. And the Dutch, they want to talk about it. And the Brazilians, I hear this all the time. Steve, I'm in a meeting, and there's 2 or 3 Brazilians, and there's 8 Americans. And the 8 Americans will go around and think everybody has talked, and then 20 minutes later they make a decision, and the Brazilians are like, we didn't even get to, we didn't get to process. In Brazil this would be a 2-hour process. At the end of that 2 hours we would have made a decision. And the same with the Germans. We make a decision with a small d, and we can change our mind. Everybody's, you Americans, you guys say one thing, you do it, and then you change your mind. Yeah, but No, we want to have a decision with a capital D. So by the time we make that decision, we're all behind it, we're ready to go, and we go 100%. The problem is they don't want to change then, and they go forward. That's the Germans, the Dutch, the Americans. So you begin to run into cultural issues, and if you can understand those, and you can remind yourself, okay, Steve, just relax a little bit. The Dutch are going to require a little bit more time, and the Germans to decide this. So just relax. The board meeting can be 8 hours instead of 2 or 3. I learned that early. Then with the Norwegians. I love the Norwegians. You can have 10 businessmen in a project, and they're all participating in this, and you don't know who the boss is. You don't know who they have an egalitarian, both men and women are equal, and they share, they trust, they are so easy to do business with. They have to trust you, and you have to trust them. And once that trust is there, it's a situation where there's a lot less conflict, there's a lot less, there's just not a competition, there's no hierarchy. They're not out to impress anybody. So I know when I'm sitting down with the Norwegians that we're going to have, by the time the decision is made, they're going to all be on board. And I don't know who was the final person to say yes or no, but I think they all collectively said yes or no together. And so it's kind of fun. Every time we're in these situations, we're learning about how each culture handles it and how do the Romanians handle it. And the Romanians are looking to see how we're handling it. So we're learning from each other. So that piece is exciting. And this was just a book that helped me remind myself that we have to go co-create reality. but we have to lower our assumption. We have to turn those down and then hear each other. And then, is this what I heard you say? Is this is what I heard you say?
Yeah.
Can we give each other that freedom to say, this is what I heard you say. What did you hear me say? Are we agreeing on this? And we have a very short period of time to judge somebody. Can I trust this person? Are they safe? That's the first two things we look at, and we don't know that. Our radar, in less than 1 second, I know whether I'm going to trust you and you're safe. When I met Ryan, he said 2 sentences, and I said, I love this guy, I trust this guy, I know where he's coming from. And I really did say that. And Marshall said, Steve, you need to come over because you're going to meet somebody that you probably need to meet. And I had that split second, I realized the kindred spirit.
Yeah.
I realized that this guy can be rough and tough, and I've learned more about him since then. It's very appropriate. And I see that in you now. As a leader, you're going to be more aggressive, you're going to be pushing, you're going to be visionary. And I appreciate that, and I understand that. And it can look tough at times, but I understand that. And so I was able to say, I trust you, and you're safe. And that's what we're looking for in a relationship, especially when we're taking somebody off the street. They're going to see us. Can we trust you guys? And are you safe? And we're trying to, that's the message that's hard to get out at times in a short interview or something. But because we've been here 20 years now, we have a good reputation. We go into the hospitals, we go into the prisons. So most people kind of know, they've heard about us. We've done a lot of training. Yeah. So our credentials have been earned the hard way. Yeah. And we've had success and failure, but gaining somebody's trust and knowing that you're safe, that's the foundation for a relationship. And from there, you can move mountains,
The last thing I want to talk on tonight is Enneagram. You and I share, you know way more about it than I do, but really interested in Enneagram. And you're kind of something you've studied for years. I mean, I just found out about it probably like a year and a half ago. And earlier I heard you say that you've been looking at it for 7-8 years. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that and why it's useful.
Wow. Well, the story, my wife's a family therapist, and about 8 years ago, I'm going to say this.
My mom's going to watch this, just so we're...
Oh, you can edit it out if you need to. My wife said, Steve, you're a 5. And I said, what the hell is a 5? And that's the truth. And I'm getting ready to get on a plane to go teach in Switzerland, so I bought a book on the Enneagram, and I read it all the way. Of course, I turned to the chapter on what is a 5. Yeah. And the Enneagram is an old tool it's a personality test that kind of shows you 9 orientations, how you're hardwired. And by the time I got to Switzerland, I realized, oh my gosh, I really am a 5. I'm a dysfunctional 5, which is a person that thinks with their head. And I get all these ideas in my head, and I'm thinking, I'm reading, and it drives her crazy. Steve, do something with it. Well, when I'm healthy, I go to an 8, which is a leader. You're an 8, and you can tell people about that in a minute. But as a 5, I process through my head rather than my heart or my gut. And once I had vocabulary for that, I was able to say, you're right. What do I need to do to be healthy? Well, I need to take that idea and go put it into reality. Quit reading about it, quit writing about it. Or if you are going to read and write about it, go do it too. So that's what the last 8 years, I've been applying my life to being healthy. And a 5, when they're healthy, go to 8, which is to take that idea and put it into the real world. So the Enneagram has been a tool for me that helps understand first my hardwiring and explaining some of those weaknesses and strengths. Yeah. And then being able to coach myself on, okay, turn down those instincts that are negative, and take that instinct that's positive, that's a little harder to lean into, and go do that, and do that more often, and get comfortable with it. Yeah. And so it's been revolutionary for me, first of all, to understand who I am. And then when I'm in a team, once I found out he was an 8, I couldn't believe it. First of all, you tell me on the phone that you guys are studying the Enneagram, which is an ancient tool that not too many people, it's becoming more popular, but when I heard you understood it and knew what you were, I was so excited because I thought, okay, you have an insight into how you're hardwired. Yeah. Now you're also going to teach your team that. So my entire team, we teach the Enneagram. We each know kind of our hardwired instincts, and then we're able to, I'm going to work with an 8. They're going to be a little bit of a bully. They connect through conflict. They're going to be a little more aggressive. They're visionaries. They're people who lead an organization. Every organization needs at least one. We may not need 3 of you. We need the other strengths too to round out the team.
That's right.
So what's fun is I typed in Enneagram in business, and I was so excited. Boom! Oh, the business world is using it. HR is using it because you can then find out how you would place them in a team. Do we need a leader? No, we need a salesperson. Or do we need an accountant who's a 1? So each orientation has strengths and those kind of things. So I gave it to my team, and then now every one of my executives, expat executives, I give it to. So I've given it to maybe 30 some executives from 12 countries, and found it to be a really valuable tool. And so it's universal. It's not looking at it a culture.
Yeah.
It's looking at how we're hardwired, and you can generalize, and it's a universal tool. So
Yeah.
that's the piece that it's a great tool for the toolbox. And I'm always telling people, what kind of tool can you put in the toolbox that you can pull out? Because when you have the right tool, you can do any job. When you don't have the right tool, you can try to put an IKEA furniture together, but unless you have the Allen wrench, you're out of luck.
Right.
So
That's
the
right.
Enneagram is, for me, it's a tool that can be learned pretty quickly, and then a lifetime of understanding it.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning, and I'm laughing with my wife now because I tell this story, and sometimes they edit it out, sometimes they don't, but it's a true story, and it really did. It was shocking. I wish I'd found it when I was your age, but I found it in my 50s, and now I'm going to apply it. So it's just a tool, like any of these things are tools to help us map where we are.
Yeah.
And I love maps because where you're going to go, you got to know where you're at.
Yeah.
And know where you're going. And if you have these kind of tools, it's just like another tool. It's like a compass.
Yeah.
It gives you direction. It gives you an idea of where you're coming from.
It's been so helpful for our team because we were able to, it got things out on paper, stuff that was buried in there. So yes, I can be controlling sometimes. And to see it on paper not only gave me the ability to talk about it more openly, but more importantly, it gave my team an opportunity to, you're doing that. And I didn't take it personally because I'm one of 9 types. And so it opened the conversation up for us to start to express ourselves and for us to hold each other accountable to a different degree. And yeah, in the middle of conflict, it's awesome to be able to go back to Enneagram and go, okay, that's why that probably happened. Oh, I did that, and this was the result and consequence. And I love it because it doesn't just put you in a box as much as it helps explain a perspective.
Yeah, it gets you out of the box.
Exactly.
You want to be in the box.
You want to grow outside of that. So for me, I went, wow, I'm really weak in these areas. And to challenge myself to grow in those areas because I want to be complete. I want to be holistic. Now, I'm going to have a preference and an orientation, like you said, but there's areas of weakness that I really have needed to develop in my own life. And Enneagram has been a phenomenal tool to help that happen. I really appreciate it. So what's one other thing that you see in this area of coaching? Because I think that's something you end up doing, I spend a lot of time on, and I know you're passionate about. Help frame coaching, because it wasn't until about last year that we hosted a guest from America that came over and taught us about coaching that I had a good understanding of it. I always kind of thought it was, life coaches, and so many people were becoming life coaches, and I was like, what is that? So frame coaching for us that gives us a good general understanding.
Yeah, that's a tough. You're walking. For me, coaching is simply a journey that I'm walking alongside somebody, and I have a particular path that I followed that has given me some tools, some wisdom, some insights, and if I'm able to. If I've digested those insights and wisdom and lived those out, then I'm a living, breathing opportunity in that journey to share what I've learned with somebody else. So I always look at it as and we do this with kids off of the street here. We do this with kids off the street in Indianapolis. In Indianapolis, we work with the same clientele. So I worked with over 450 at-risk families with kids over the last 20 years. And I say to them the same thing I say to the executive. I'm here with you for a period of time. I'm a resource, and I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to help you figure out where you're going. And at the end of the day, you do all the work. We learn together, and I'm going to learn from you too. Everybody has something they can teach somebody else. Right. So I think a coach is that person who, first of all, kind of has the resources developed over time, but they also see the playing field. You can get to 30,000 feet and you see the playing field, and you have some insight and perspective that you're not in that person's situation, so you can be a reflection. You can be a person they can talk to. They can be a safe person to talk to. Yeah. And as you know, if we can just talk sometimes, if we can just express our frustrations. I ask people all the time, do you have a safe person to talk to? Well, guess what? If you're an executive, you're a general manager, or you're somebody, no.
In a different country, nonetheless.
Yeah. Well, here's a safe person you can talk to And guess what? I worked with 25 other people just like you. So a coach is somebody who's been through it, played the game, and I never ask anybody to do something I haven't done except you. I always try to make it a motto. I'm not going to ask you to do something I haven't already done. I asked him to do a podcast, and I've never done a podcast, and he's doing it, and I'm the first one.
Here we go.
But
full circle, man.
Yeah, so I like it. So that coach is it's a great it's a journey that you're sharing with somebody else, and if you have a particular expertise, sometimes you need a particular expertise. Other times you just need some wisdom, you know. And I've been married 38 years. So guess what? I'm the oldest guy. I've been married 38 years. I have 4 kids, 4 millennials.
Wow.
And they're like, Steve, can you work with millennials? And guess what? I have a millennial boss. So Stacy, if you ever see this, Stacy's like 36 years old.
He's a good guy, Stacy.
And I'm like, and the owner 5 years ago, he said, Steve, well, can you work with millennials? And I said, hey, I'm Facebook friends with my 4 kids, and they're millennials. And so we work. And the other thing, you know, being older, the fun thing is I can work with the millennials, the Gen Xers, the boomers.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you call those younger ones, Z or
something.
I don't know.
Gen Xers.
Yeah, so you not only have the cross-cultural piece, you have the cross-generational piece.
Yeah.
So I'm oftentimes coaching people because I've lived long enough now. I understand the millennial challenge. I understand. So the millennials are pushing the Gen Xers.
Okay.
The boomers are sitting on top of the Gen Xers. The Gen Xers have been 15 years in their career. We won't get out of the way. We don't understand the rules. The millennials have broken all the rules. You guys have thrown the book out. You don't want to work the way we were taught to work. The Xers, the 40, 45-year-olds are really frustrated. So I'm oftentimes coaching on a generational, cross-cultural intelligence coming to the realization that we're going to have to think differently here. So during this journey, I'm going to help you learn to navigate this, to negotiate this, to have those crucial conversations. Why? Because I've had those crucial conversations. Why? I've failed for many times, and I've also succeeded in those failures. And I tell everybody I'm learning a new lesson that failure is just a disappointment. And disappointment means you just need to recalibrate. So I keep thinking so many times we want to get something perfect, we don't want to fail. We're never going to get something, we're not going to be successful in the first try. So, but try. Go ahead and risk it. And I'm oftentimes the coach is the person who's instilling confidence at times.
Yeah.
And part of my job is to listen, and then when somebody leaves me, I want them energized. And if you're in a good coaching relationship, the coach is energizing you. And you're going to get corrected, you're going to get, but you're going to end up respecting each other, you're going to be energized. Yeah. And the coach is going to help you understand where your position is on the field, help you see the field. So it's you do so many different things. You're parenting, you're walking together, you're laughing, you're telling your stories together, but there's a trust built in intimacy. You end up creating a transformational, I call it the transformational power of language. I don't have an elevator speech, I take the stairs and I just say, Steve, what do you do? I work with the transformational power of language. And when you sit down with somebody face to face, even in broken English, and you communicate once a week for a year or two, you can see people come out of a depression and come into a success, or you just see the lives transform. And that's rewarding, it's challenging. When they fail, you're part of that failure. Yeah. But that failure is not a failure, it's a disappointment. And we can recalibrate that. So a lot of coaching is recalibrating, a lot of coaching is training. Yeah. And when I train, the good news is I read this book, I get to absorb it, and then I get to go teach it. So I have a couple thousand books in my library right now, and I'm reading maybe 5 simultaneously, and then I pick out the best of each one. I write on LinkedIn. This would be like, this is the couple I was visiting in Istanbul. The day before they left, they had a bride with us, Hakan and his wife, Daphne. And I wrote a 1,300 character story about my time with them, and I said something about you guys too. And one of the fun things is I can actually, I take a picture of all my clients when we first meet. I ask for permission. I say, if I take your picture, I may use you in a post because I want to talk about your growth and my growth. Is that okay? Yes, I think so. And the first time I tried it was with an Italian guy, Serafino, one of my favorite guys, executive. And I had him hold up a sign saying Italian. And he's a really great leader. He's an up-and-coming leader. He's going to be CEO material. Yeah. And I wrote a story about Serafino. And I told in that story the positive qualities I saw in him. And they were true, but they might have been exaggerated, but they're true. And so I'm encouraging him. And I post that. I hit send. I'm like, gosh, am I supposed to hit send? I got his picture and I wrote about him, and he hasn't seen it. He didn't get to edit it. I hit send, and I wait for like 24 hours, 500 views. An hour later, 700 views. An hour later, 1,000 views. An hour later, next day, 6,000 views.
Wow.
And then I get a note from Serafino, thanks, I'm like, okay. So then I began to realize, I can bless these people by walking alongside them, relating with them, learning from them, and then I can post something that we both learned together. And so I'll write a story about them, post their picture, and I think I currently have 16,000 followers on LinkedIn. So,
wow.
We talk about influence.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid about influence anymore. I think our job is to try to influence.
Yeah.
With humility, with grace, but
Yeah.
but with courage.
Yeah.
And every time I hit send, I'm a little hesitant, but I'm realizing, wait a second, I'll take the blowback if I make a mistake, and I'll admit it. But I'm trying to do this with humility and grace, and I'm trying to bless somebody. So a coach is going to be somebody who energizes you. And when you're in a meeting and you get the life sucked out of you.
Yeah.
Avoid those meetings. And when you have those meetings where you're energized, that is where real growth occurs. So I'm telling people all the time, are your meetings productive? If they're productive, you're leaving those meetings energized. Yeah. If you're getting drained and you're not doing something right. So we talk about team meetings a lot. We talk about how do we sit down together and negotiate these tough conversations, crucial conversations, dangerous conversations. And you see how an Italian might handle a conversation. It's going to be a little different than Norwegian. Yeah. And the Japanese might sit quietly, and they would say, Steve, I never even got a chance to talk. You Americans cannot quit talking. They have a positive pause, and we need to give them the space to talk. So if we're in a meeting and we know there's going to be Japanese present, we need to leave space for them. So those kind of things, you just begin to see, and after hearing what the Brazilians need, what the Japanese need, what the Chinese need, what the Europeans need, okay, if we can, and this is what he's saying in the book, is if you can deviate from your normal assumptions, then you might really have communication. And when it's good, it's good, and when it's bad, it's bad.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate it. That's really the objective here, right? Is having a conversation. Mm-hmm. And just like you see LinkedIn as an avenue to bless people and to have a conversation, create a conversation. Hopefully that's what this could be. And like I said, it's really meaningful for me to have you here for our my first real interview, to sharing that together. Because you kind of dropped the seed and the spark that took a year to come to fruition, but here we are together having a conversation, and I hope it's useful for other people. I hope we can share your story and what you're doing here in Romania and in Indianapolis, and really globally your impact, and especially through LinkedIn. So number one, how do people connect with you on LinkedIn? What's the best way to reach out to you if people are looking for coaching even?
Yeah, just look for Steven Reynolds. I don't know. This is what's so funny. Here I am, a boomer. I don't understand technology very well. So I need the younger people to help me with all those kind of issues, but I figured out how to use LinkedIn.
Awesome.
If you just look under Steven Reynolds, you can probably find me. I don't know how to...
We'll link to it under the video, I think. Sami can take care of that. Yeah. And so we'll link to you. And the last question I always like to ask people, what is good to you?
Yeah, well, what I'm noticing and what I think is really great, when I came today to your office and I saw you surrounded by women leaders, mm-hmm. women in leadership, that's pretty exciting to me. And I see the same thing in our organization. And I'm running around in Campino all the time getting stuff, and we were at the hardware store, and there's 5 women running the hardware store, deliveries. And why? Because women get the job done, they know how to network, they connect, and they need to be in leadership roles. So what's exciting to me is to see women taking leadership and see your staff. There's a new generation of women that are becoming leaders, and the quality of men and women has never been like this before, and I'm seeing it in this country too. Yeah. And I especially see it in the Scandinavian countries, but it's coming here, it's in America. It's still,
we need more of it here.
There's always a tendency for the men to try to take charge, but to see you surrounded by strong women who can stand up to you, who can talk to you, who can bring their wisdom to you. Yeah. I have a wife, I have a daughter, I have 3 sons, and if we want our daughters to compete with our sons, we need to give them the freedom to do that. And I'm seeing this new Romania, the millennials are expecting that. And there's no reason to turn. They need to compete with their brothers. They need to, and they can compete. The problem is they oftentimes compete us. So that puts a little pressure on us men. We have to up our game a little bit.
No.
But that's the most exciting thing for me that I'm finding joy in is seeing women in leadership.
Women in
And the
leadership.
women that I see, to be quite honest with you, in the corporation, in the structure of the corporations, I've seen VPs in marketing, in sales, at the very top, and those women, I mean, they are as bright, they have as much talent, they have, and so they're there for a reason. And so I just know that if you give a woman the same chance, she will rise to the top just as quickly. So that's really exciting to see that we can mix like that, and we're not surrounding ourselves with the traditional guys and hierarchy. And I see you giving freedom to these young ladies and them standing up to you and benefiting from that. So that's really exciting to me.
That's great. Well, thank you for that. The new Romania.
New Romania.
That's it, man.
I can't wait to see the next. As I said, I'm greedy. I want another 20 years.
Awesome.
And I want to be coming back more often as I get older, maybe 3 or 4 times a year. So we'll see if that happens. If not, but it's been a great 20-year run, and I'm very proud of what Romania's been doing. And every time I see something good, I'm putting it out there for you guys. There's so many great things happening. So just be aware of that.
I like to say I'm probably the biggest cheerleader in Romania, and that's a literal term, of course. But you're also one of them. You're cheerleading Romania from Indianapolis through LinkedIn. I really appreciate that. Keep it up. And I think your reach and your influence is only going to continue to grow.
Well, I apologize because I'm an ugly American. I don't speak your language. I only speak English, but I do love you. I love your country, and so I'm not ugly in that way. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry that we expect you to speak English, but I guess what? You do speak great English. So it's gotten easier to come here all the time. The Uber driver, we're chatting, and everywhere I go, you guys speak really good English. So you made my job easier. I apologize, but someday maybe I'll learn your language. But
Two ugly Americans.
Okay.
This should have been an audio podcast only, but there's video. Thank you guys for joining, and have a great day.
cheers.